I'm often asked, what is the big deal about cannabis accounting? And a sidebar to that is, why can't I hire Aunt Mary Lou to do my cannabis bookkeeping and tax? My name is Paula Collins. I'm an accountant and I'm also an attorney, and I work in the cannabis, CBD, and hemp spaces. You'll see my logo for my law firm, and you'll also see my logo for the Morton Street Group. That kind of shows how long I've been in this industry. I was working in cannabis tax before I was admitted to the New York State Bar. You'll see my contact information there as well. I'm a member of the International Cannabis Bar Association, and I'm also a very proud member of DOPE CFO. DOPE CFO is the premier organization of accountants, bookkeepers, and tax experts who are working in the cannabis, CBD, and hemp space. So the reason that cannabis tax is such a big deal, or cannabis accounting is such a big deal, is that from the very beginning, the state will ask about your accounting team. Now, if they didn't catch it on your dispensary application or on your application at the very inception of your business, they will during the regulatory process through the life cycle of your business. The state really wants to match seed to sale and dollar to ounce of pot. The state wants to make sure that you're not vulnerable to the bad guys. If your accounting is in order, it will show the clear tracking of each dollar. And also, if your books show that you're a little bit short at the end of each month, they want to know that, not so that they can shame you about it, but just so that they can know whether you're susceptible to bribes or other foul play. You are running a licensed business in a highly regulated industry. This is not your average home business. This is not a lemonade stand. This is not even a small cottage industry. This is a very serious business on the same level of an alcohol business or a cigarette business. Even a micro business is expected to account to the state for where every bit of inventory went. And the best way to show that is in the accounting of your inventory, seed to sale, and the accounting of your books, dollar for dollar. The states want to be able to follow the money. So what's at stake? Since you can't bank in the usual manner, cannabis business owners move a lot of cash. If your cash does not align with your inventory reports, your IRS audit can suddenly turn into a criminal investigation for trafficking or for money laundering. Very serious. Even if you fight the process and prevail, do you really want to go through that? It can take years. We start our cannabis accounting process with the perpetual data room. That is kind of the heart of the accounting systems that I set up for people. That's consistent with what all of us in DOPE CFO do. Everything is there for all company executives, lawyers, insurance agents, accountants. It's great for holding everybody accountable. We can't say, oh, it's in a file somewhere, I can't find it. It's right there in the perpetual data room. This is great for investors. If you have somebody walk in or somebody contact you and say, hey, I have X amount of dollars, I want to put it into a cannabis business, I'd like to put it into your business. If you've got the perpetual data room, you've got all of your books ready to go right there. It's also great for tax prep. It's great for loan opportunities as well. The chart of accounts. Now, a lot of times business owners will say, yep, I got QuickBooks, it's all set up. Well, did you tweak your chart of accounts, or are you just using what's in QuickBooks? The QuickBooks chart of accounts, if you even know what I'm talking about, will not suffice for your cannabis, CBD, or hemp business. You need something that is operation specific to whether you're in cannabis, CBD, or hemp, and also what kind of business. Your chart of accounts, if you're running a cultivation operation, is going to be very different than if you're running a dispensary or a delivery operation. Also unique to cannabis, CBD, and hemp accounting, cost accounting is required. You need to know the value of your inventory as the seedlings grow or as your product in a retail establishment ages on the shelf. That's very necessary in order to track profit and loss. And it's also invaluable in speaking to, especially to loan officers, because they're going to want to be able to value your inventory, not only what's in your cash, but what's the value of that product that's sitting on your shelf. Or if you're a grow operation, if your seeds are this tiny, your plants are this tiny versus if they are fully grown, makes a big difference. Now, another reason for not hiring Aunt Mary Lou, and I've just made that up. Aunt Mary Lou is actually a very nice person. She's worked as a bookkeeper for a number of years. She's very knowledgeable in specific industries, just not in cannabis, most likely. GAAP accounting is required. It's not just enough to have a bookkeeper in there. Now, what do I mean by GAAP accounting? That is required for publicly traded companies. It's required for businesses that release their information in public reports, which is required in cannabis. And it's strongly recommended when you go to sell the business. It's just standard grown-up accounting, basically, is what I tell people. Now, a lot of people that I talk to say, well, we're going to start off small, and we hope that in 3 to 5 years we can go public. Well, don't wait until you're trying to go public to do GAAP accounting. If you're planning to do that kind of financing with your business and bring on equity partners and sell stock and get on the exchange, if one day that is possible for us, you're going to need to have GAAP accounting. Taxation. Taxation is a big thing in cannabis. A lot of people now, different from 5 years ago, a lot of business owners say, oh yeah, I know I have to deal with 280E, 280E. Well, what is 280E? It's really one sentence in the Internal Revenue Code that says no deduction or credit shall be allowed in running a business that consists of trafficking a controlled substance. Well, guess what? As long as cannabis is a Schedule I substance, it is a controlled substance. Now, it goes beyond that. A lot of people are saying, gee, well, we're about to go fully legal. We're going to be legal at the federal level. They're going to deschedule it and we are going to be legal. Why do I need to worry about it? My accounting is about to get much easier. Whoa, let me just say to you, it's actually going to get a lot more complicated, because part of that Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act that's being discussed in draft form and by some members of the Senate will introduce a federal excise tax. Similar to what we have with alcohol and tobacco, some portion of the sale of that product will go to tax for the federal government, not just the state, not just the municipality. They're looking at ultimately a 25% tax. It's going to start off at 10% and it's going to increase each year. Your accounting needs are about to get more complicated when cannabis is actually legal at the federal level. Accounting will get more complicated, not less complicated. The latest updates from the IRS as recently as July 26, 2021, say that marijuana businesses will see increased audits. They've been training their auditors in the ins and outs of cannabis. Same thing with cryptocurrency, by the way. The government needs the money. We've been through a pandemic. We need to pay the bills. They realize that cannabis businesses are a good resource. What has happened is that the IRS has noticed that what's being reported to the state does not match what's being reported on IRS returns. And so they have trained their auditors to go out and start targeting the marijuana businesses. Failure to comply, as I mentioned earlier, is costly and it is criminal. The famous tax cases that have dragged on for years really meant that that business, like Harborside or Champs or any of the others that have gone through the United States tax court, those business owners had to pay their taxes. They also had to pay accountants and lawyers for years. The 2014 and 2015 returns finally get resolution in 2021. That's a long time to have accountants and lawyers just working on those years, not mentioning the years that came after that, when they're still having to do their accounting and do their taxes. Now, intentional diversion of funds or misrepresentation on a tax return can result in criminal prosecution. It can happen so easily in cannabis because we're not banking in a traditional bank. A business owner could easily decide to take home $16,000 and have it sitting in the living room. And then it sits. Eventually, those funds are considered diverted from the business. And if it was intentional, that could be a fraudulent charge. Can happen very easily. Same thing with inventory. Another reason to keep your accounting in order is because of your exit strategy. When you go public, when you go to sell, when you go to take out more loans or bring on more business partners, or when you decide to abandon the business. Not every business is going to make it, just like in a regular business. Not every cannabis business will survive. Keep in mind, bankruptcy is not an option in cannabis. We're right back to that Schedule 1 issue. Cannabis is illegal at the federal level. Bankruptcy is a federal process. Also, the trustees would have no way to deal with the illegal inventory, the cannabis inventory that would get turned over in a bankruptcy. Even if you're in love with your business today, which is true for a lot of people in the cannabis space, you don't know what your life circumstances might be in 3 years, in 5 years. You might want to cash out, or you might need to do something different to support your family or to support yourself. Why are cannabis accountants so expensive? Well, first of all, it's because we have specialized training. We don't just study accounting, we study all the ins and outs of the laws, and believe me, they change. What's possible 1 month in a municipality may not be possible the very next month. And we also, a lot of times accounting is just dealing with the federal and the state level. With cannabis accounting, it really does get into the nitty-gritty of what's happening at the cities and the counties. You can't have too many clients at once because it's difficult to manage all of it. So because of that, a cannabis accountant has to make a living with fewer customers, fewer clients. There are tremendous compliance requirements that we really need to stay on top of, as well as we have an ongoing education need and a need to stay on top of the law. Honestly, my errors and omissions, basically my malpractice insurance, once I say, oh yes, I work in the cannabis space, ka-ching, my premiums go up. And so I have to recover that cost somehow, somewhere. So that's why cannabis accountants are so expensive. So now what about Aunt Mary Lou? Do you get rid of her? Heavens no, we need Aunt Mary Lou. As long as she's able to get trained in our systems, which are different from other businesses. We need somebody who has daily contact with your business and with the data of your business to import it into that perpetual data room. And then the cannabis accountant will act kind of high level at the CFO level to collate, to generate reports, to deal with the cost accounting spreadsheets and work papers that are going to support that cannabis tax return at the end of the year. And also that could be turned over to your investors or prospective investors. Mary Lou will act to support all of that higher level accounting, and we need her to be there to collate everything. But even if you've got Aunt Mary Lou, still hire an accountant that knows cannabis. I'm an enrolled agent. I'm also an attorney. I'm a member of Dope CFO. I'm on the board with Elevate Northeast, which is a premier organization based in Boston dedicated to advocacy, legislative advocacy and education in this space. I'm also very experienced in the cannabis, CBD, and hemp industries. I'm admitted to practice law in New York, New Jersey, and Missouri. I can also advise, in other words, serve as a consultant to clients in other states. And I do. I have clients in several states throughout the United States. You can find me here at paulacollinslaw.com or at the mortonstreetgroup.com. Here are some of the many logos. There's my U.S. tax court admission. Not a lot of accountants are admitted to practice in the US tax court. So I do mention that I would be able to take your case if, God forbid, it would have to go to the tax court. I could take it from that basic bookkeeping level all the way through the tax court. I am an IRS enrolled agent. And also, as I say, a member of DOPE CFO, a member of the International Cannabis Bar, and I'm on the board with Elevate Northeast. So I do thank you for listening, and I hope that you will contact me to discuss your accounting needs. Thank you very much.